Well, that is not plumb. So I'm cutting a doorway from the chicken coop to the chicken pen, the future chicken pen. And I've followed the lines of the existing bricks, even though they are not plumb, but I just didn't want them to go outwards too much, and then I've got silly gaps for clearance around the door that I'm going to build. Anyway, shut up. I don't want to go much further down here because I don't want all this soil going into the coop. So I think we're going to put a little step here and on the other side, something that the chickens can easily go up and down, and that means I'm going to be drilling holes where the mortar join is. Now I'll move on to mounting a batten either side with masonry screws so I can use it as a guide for my disc cutter. Now by the time I put the batten on this wall, I think this sill is going to be in the way for me running my disc cutter. So I'm going to get rid of a bit of this first. That nail's got to go because I don't want my blade to catch on that. It's teasing me, this. Gone. Now let's start cutting the bricks. Oh, you're defenders. This Evolution disc cutter does have an attachment to hook up to a hose, but because it's such a little job outside, I didn't bother with it. I just wore a mask and didn't take the window out until after, so it prevents dust from going into the barn. Once I went as deep as I could, I removed the guides to cut the final bit. So Mr. TCD's unscrewing this now. I've got a cold frame lid. I'm going to use my reciprocating saw with the special blade, and hopefully it'll cut through nails if I run along it. I ran out of enthusiasm pretty quick with this. Well no, it's blunting it. I think I'm hitting masonry there. Because I couldn't find any more metal cutting blades for my reciprocating saw, Mr. TCD wanted to step in the old-fashioned way. A bull in a china shop. I've got gloves here. And there goes trying to reuse the glass. If you're wondering, those cables were just makeshift brick ties. Stop, 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 stop. Oh. So I will be adding a piece of wood along the edges for a frame, but there's bits of mortar sticking out. So that's the next job I need to do, is remove them. That's my header. So you'll notice that there's no lintel at the top there, but there's no actual weight above here, other than some wood which is spanning across the load of the bricks. And there's nothing tying the top of the bricks together. Obviously there's a bottom there. So what I'm going to do is use this as a header, and this is the same width as some timber that we'll be using as a frame at the sides. And I've cut this down to slot in there. It'll be mounted to the two uprights I'm going to put in, and that will be fixed to the wall. So now I need Mr. TCD to help me measure what the distance is from the opening at the bottom to the top here, because I can't find my laser measure. So I've got my two sides of my top done. I've got a bucket of wood preserver in. I'm just going to dip the ends in first. Right, Mr. TCD can brush that on. Either way, this is just really to give it some protection, and then we'll be painting over it anyway. Ooh, hopeful bee. So I don't know if I've said, but this is C16 structural timber that I'm using for the sides. So it should be nice and sturdy for hinges and latches and gusts of wind. I've already pre-drilled this. Now I want to offer this up because I know that the other side is not plumb, so I can see where it goes. Also, while I was doing that, Mr. TCD has kindly put some damp-proof course down there with some no-nails, just so any water doesn't splash up and the bottoms don't rot. That's not too bad. Any gaps I'm just going to either put packers in or fill, and then we'll use masonry paint. But this, if you come here, you'll see, now if you remember at the beginning of the video, I knew that these were out, then it sticks out more, rather than having to create a wonky door to fit in this slot. Probably put it about there. So I'm trying to get this plumb, and I've not even attempted to use a spirit level yet. So it goes in a little bit there, then it feels flush here, and then it sticks out there, bows out even more, and that is the worst bit there. And then it goes in. So we focused on trying to get it to look acceptable and plumb, then started mounting it with more concrete screws. I also used packers to fill the gaps where the screws are going, and we'll definitely have to do quite a bit of filling later. I also add a piece at the bottom just to make it a bit tidier. So the bottom piece is in now and it's more or less level, so I can use it as a reference to get some accurate square measurements for my actual door that I'm going to fit. Now, a few years ago, I showed you a very narrow gate that I did with my dad, and it's going to be similar to this. And all I was going to do is just add 3 pieces of this. So I'd have one there for the hinge, middle for a lock or a handle, and another one for the hinge there. But Mr. TCD has bought this, and I think it's a great idea. So we're going to slightly change the position of where the bottom hinge is going to be, because he's bought an automatic chicken door. It's battery powered, but it does have a light sensor on here. So when it's dark, it'll close. We've tested it indoors. It looks quite cool. So if I position it fairly low, I still want my hinges to be placed probably about there. But that also means if I cut a hole out of the door, I still want it to be sturdy down at the bottom. So instead, I've decided to build a frame like one of my dad's shed doors. So we'll have a bottom piece like that, cut 15mm shy for a clearance because we're going to have some T-hinges. Previously, I've gone for 12mm if I used flush hinges. By the way, this is just ripped down structural timber. I've just ripped it down with my little compact saw. So I'm just offering it up there first, just the edge of the opening, and I'm going to mark there, and I need to deduct 15mm off there. And I'll do that twice. I need to find out where my cut was, where my mark was. Don't be silly, woman. So I've got my 2 pieces that I've just cut down stacked up on the base. So instead of using a tape measure to measure the gap between these 2 and the top of the opening, instead I'm using a piece of wood pushed right up to the inside top. And now I can mark where the bottom of that is. Now I'm not going to cut there. I'm going to reduce that by 20mm. That gives me a 10mm clearance at the top and the bottom. And I need to cut 2 of those. $173.7. Yay! Yay! That's nice. No messing about. So if I get that close to the bottom, so that screw can go into there, then I put another spar here, and all I have to do is put 2 pieces here. That means I need to go about there. 32 centimetres. 32. So ditch that for now. Yeah, right. I'm going to put B for bottom. So my hinge will have to go there. So I've got my first spar cut. I'll screw that in a minute. But what I want to say is thank you for the tip of soaking the mortar tube in some warm water, maybe for about 10 minutes before using it, because Mr. TCD is doing that job happily right now while I crack on with this. It beat me to it. It's run out already. It came out that easy. but he hasn't managed to get the other side done. I just want to prop this up just to consult with Mr. TCD of our handle position. But this is the centre point. Is the height of the handle okay there? Anyway, now I need to put those on an angle. Now, because it's such a narrow gate at 46 centimetres wide, previously my dad has said you don't really need a brace in a situation like this. Actually, he said if it's going to get used a lot, then it's definitely best to add one. But because I've made it quite bulky, I'm going to put one in anyway to prevent any dropping, and that brace does need to be aiming towards the hinge side. So if you can see, I've put a long enough piece of CLS underneath, resting underneath, and I'm lining up in the corners, knowing I'm going to cut some stuff off soon. So I'm going to draw where I'm going to cut it. It's going to get cut there, cut that. But I'm popping to the miter saw for that. So because my brace should be on the hinge side to prevent any drop-in, I need to work out which side of this I'm going to clad. So I'm going to offer it up, hinge and hinge. And the reason I think I like it in this position is if I open it outwards, like that, the chicken nest boxes are going to be over there. So they can just walk in a straight line if that automatic door opener doesn't open. I've never done a gate on my own without my dad here, so it's been quite fun. These are definitely overkill though. I couldn't be bothered to rip timber down. Anyway, just to remind myself, clad. Now, before I get the wood glue, I'm going to be using this tongue and groove. Now, these are just scraps from my dad's wood yard, so I want to make sure I've got all good pieces because I've got some rubbish just for random projects. And I will be ripping a little bit off here at the start because I don't want this groove at the beginning. In fact, I wouldn't mind just having a see how many I need. So I don't want to be left with a really silly piece. I can't be bothered to slot them together. They might not even slot together. They're not doing very well. I think I'm fine with that. I've decided I'm just cutting them down to what I need, doing my best to squish them together. This is my first half. I've got 3 more to go. Once I've got those all stuck, I'm going to offer it to my frame, place it on top, and I'm going to square it off. I'll glue it and screw it down, and then I'm just going to use a router bit, a flush trim router bit, just to trim the edges off. It saves me ripping off the groove bits and there's bits that I've damaged. So for example, this one I'm leaving to the end. That's it. Now I'm measuring an equal distance of the overhang of the tongue and groove and making pencil marks for reference so I can take it away. So I don't need that. Glue it, offer it back up and screw it down. So I'm offering it to my pencil lines, getting it flush. Don't break it, like that. The only downside to this is I don't know where my brace is at the moment, so I'll have to find it. Now I'm using my flush trim router bit where the bearing will run along the frame and the bit trims down the excess to match it. Only it seemed to be struggling a lot more than normal. It was so slow that it was scorching the wood, which you can just about see smoke. So I wondered whether the overhang was too big, which I trimmed most down with my compact saw. Still no luck and more smoke. No. So I dug deeper in my messy conservatory workshop and found a trend router bit which worked perfectly. So I can only assume that the other bit was blunt. And while Mr. TCD was painting yesterday, I completely forgot to router that hole out for the automatic door. I'm using a flat wood drill bit first, just to get a big hole. Right, here we go again. We missed a bit of paint. It's going to open, I think. Is it going to open? Should open. Oh, there. So I've got some T-bar hinges. If I go there, that'll work. Yeah, there. Let's do the hinges first. Whoa there, Pickle. Make sure you put the hinges on the correct side. You'll see in a minute. That is very naughty. Right. So I've got it even on the door. I'm hoping it opens back up after me pushing it closed. If not, I'll have to buy another one. And now I'm pre-drilling and screwing it to my frame bits behind. We found an off-on switch behind the battery cover, so let's test it. Nice. I'll put that back on. Whether chickens will force that open, I don't know. Might have to get a better one eventually. We'll see. But that is on. Oh, it's windy. Now I need to get the handle on. I made a mistake. I put the hinges on the wrong side. It was just autopilot, and I can't have it like that because that's the way to support hinges on the other side. Let's quickly fix that. Some scarring now. It's starting to look second-hand. I'm glad I spotted that, because if I put the handle on the other end, I would have been in trouble. I'm glad I checked that. So this is the latch that I'm putting on, and I need to drill a hole for a spindle. And we chose this because we can open it inside and out. Now, my dad recommends to have the bar overhanging by about 1 inch. I just want to temporarily screw this on and offer it up just to get a feel. This is just insurance for me. So I'm going to say it's there. So I'm going to temporarily screw that down. And don't forget, underneath, I've got my middle spar here. So we're going to have a little test. That handle is just huge for this door. I've got to get this done before the rain comes. Well, you're going to get closed in. So I need to pack it up, but I'm just having a look how much I've got there. I think we need... Grab the handle. We'll put this up first, and then we'll do the drilling after. Right, packers. So that's my 10mm. That's better. I want to make sure it's right all the way around. Right, I've packed it up. I've got it as even as I can. And I want to bang a screw in because my arm's aching. Right, that's one, that's one. Take the packers out. It's cool. Now, a little trick that I learned is this catch here, I want it slightly lower, so when it blows shut, it can just glide on like that. So I'm going to stick it about there. It's about 1/4 inch. I've lost screws, so I'm going for gold. Now I'm just checking to feel if the door is flush with the frame, because I need a stop lat on the other side. In fact, I've put one screw in, you can see it at the back. And that's just to stop the door from going in and ripping at the hinges. I picked the wonkiest piece of wood for this. I'll have to put a few screws in just to show who's boss. Turns out wonky pieces of wood had a purpose. I'm going to put one here as well. Stop any potential mice coming in. Right. Mr. TCD wants me to put one at the top as well. This is not needed. I want my cup of tea. There'll be times where we want to leave the door open and we don't want it swinging, because if you look, the automatic opener kisses the wall, so that could smash. Anyway, I think I'm going to go about there. It does go the other way, just so it's a nice, easy, reachable height. The screws are a bit too long and this is a bit too thin. So instead of having some screws exposed, I've just put a scrap piece of wood there. And that's instead of me looking for some shorter black screws. Right, let's test that. Come on, chickens. That was the perfect length, that piece. It just wedged in. I'm going to take this off. Because I need to drill in the centre of there, I've made 4 pencil marks. So I can do a cross section. I also need to make sure that my drill bit is going to be wide enough and not too big. Marking those out. But it looks like I need to remove a screw. So to drill my hole, I'm going to use a 20mm flatwood drill bit. I can't find an auger drill bit. So we're starting on this end. Tell me when it pokes through, actually. Right, I need to get this spindle back on. Does it look central in that hole? So I've got my little anti-drop thing. I don't know what it's called. So this doesn't fall down and it can close okay. So that's resting on the bottom bit. So the thickness of my door is too thin for this spindle, so I need to trim it down. So if you look closer, I'm going to slot this on. And there's definitely a gap. So I'm offering something up just to gauge how much I need to trim off. So it needs to be about there. Right, I need an angle grinder. Yeah, it's hot. I hope it fits okay now. Yay. Oops. We're nearly done. Yay, right. See you in the next one. Bye. I didn't even close it did it on its own. Hiya. Did my dad teach me well? Right, we're going to get out of the rain, but we're going to come back later and do some paint touch-ups from the inside, and hopefully we can see if that closes in the dark. Yay. It's just the right amount of light and dark, isn't it, for the camera and for this. That's cool. Door. So we are in the middle of Storm Amy and it's been 24 hours since I put the door up. Wow, it is cold. Last night we kept coming out to check to see if the door had flung open. So that tells us we really need to get a bolt on the inside. So it's about 5 p.m. and you can see it's still bright outside, and that means that the door is still in the open position. So I know it's between now and 7 p.m. it starts to close. I've no idea because I've not actually seen it happen. My mum's told me hers go to bed at 4:30 at the moment. But anyway, I think the next job we need to just give this all a very good paint and start removing any of the random nails and stuff and put the trellis back. Then we can start working on the run, have all the panels here and the mesh. Then we can start working on the nest boxes and the perches. But I hope this video was really useful if you need to make a door or a gate. And yeah, hopefully you're enjoying this journey, and I'll catch you in the next one. Thanks for watching. Bye. Goodbye.